politics, and much more. Here is that conversation.
Welcome.
Good to be here.
You are basically saying what about this conversation about running as the running mate of Mitt Romney?
I'm not going to do it, and I'm not going to be asked, and it's not going to happen. That doesn't mean I don't have a voice. Doesn't mean I don't want to enthusiastically support Mitt Romney. I intend to do that. I'm doing it. But I'm not going to be a candidate with him.
Under no circumstances?
Under no circumstances.
So if he comes and asks, you say, sorry, go somewhere else?
Yes.
And he says the country needs you?
He's got a great list of candidates that I'm sure he's thinking about. We have a wealth of talent in the Republican Party. He'll pick somebody that will be very capable to be president and to help him in the election.
Do you have a favorite?
I do. Marco Rubio is my favorite because we have a close relationship. I admire him greatly. He's probably the most articulate, conservative elected official on the scene today. He speaks with great passion about American exceptionalism. I think it would lift the spirits of the campaign and provide some energy. Governor Romney's running a very good campaign right now, and he's closed the gap and leading in some polls, but I think this would be an added benefit.
He has enough preparation to be one heartbeat away from the president?
I believe so. Look, he has more experience than Barack Obama had when he ran, and more practical experience, and certainly got the intellectual acumen and the fortitude to be a good president. And I have a special place in my heart for him. It's hard to describe the pride I feel for his incredible success and how well he has moved into the job of being a United States Senator with humility, not trying to be an arrogant guy, to learn the trade, if you will. And he's got great people in Washington really admire him.
Yeah, he's taking time to give some well thought out speeches on foreign policy.
That's his strength. That's where he's focused. And look, there are other great candidates as well. Portman, McConnell, Christie, Paul Ryan, I think, would be extraordinary. There's a wealth of talent out there for sure.
Why didn't you want to run?
I've got, personal reasons, family reasons that overwhelm any other consideration. And I don't know, this may be a Bush trait, maybe it didn't, but I made the decision, and I made the decision, and it's, I moved on. I got the chance to be governor for 8 years. It took kind of close to a year to transition out, and it was a year to transition into that. So that's a decade of my life that I pursued my own ambitions, and I thought it was time to kind of rearrange my life to focus on other things.
Have you made the decision that you do not want to be president?
I've not made that decision, although I think there's a window of opportunity in life for all sorts of reasons, and this was probably my time. Although I don't know, given kind of what I believe and how I believe it, I'm not sure I would have been successful as a candidate either. These are different times than just 6 years ago when I last ran, or even longer than that.
You know that a lot of people in the party wanted you to run. They thought this was the time for you to run, and that you had the right experience and had the right style to make it successful.
You never know. That's pure speculation. And one thing I know for sure is you don't worry about could have, would have. You focus on the things that you can control, and that's what I'm doing.
I once talked to your brother, and he suggested to me that in the family they thought that you would be the first Bush son to run for president.
I read about that.
This is your brother saying.
I know that, and he probably read about it. And this may sound impossible to believe. I'm reading the Carroll book on Johnson,
yes.
and the Kennedy family seems to be organized around political ambitions, and there was never even a conversation about this, at least that I can remember, about George running or me running, and who would. I've never heard it inside my family, any discussion of it. That's just not what we talk about. We talk about really important things like sports and fishing.
And power boats.
Power boats for Dad, yeah.
The thing that strikes me about the Bush family is the sense of family.
Yeah.
That's from the father?
That's from...
And the mother.
Father and mother and grandmother, in a lot of ways. It's a strong family for sure, and we're fiercely loyal to one another. I remember in 1987, my dad was going to run for president, and we had a family meeting, and he introduced us to, we all knew him, but my dad introduced us to Lee Atwater, who was going to be the political director. And I remember asking Lee a question. I said, if someone threw a hand grenade into this room, would you beat me to that hand grenade? That was kind of how I wanted to frame the conversation about loyalty and about how we...
You wanted him that loyal to say yes.
Yeah, I wanted him to be
That's how I
like,
feel about taking care of your father and this family. I'll jump on that hand grenade before you.
Yeah, and I don't know if he could have beaten me to the grenade, but at least trying would have been a nice start, and he did. I mean, that was, I think that, in my mind, describes how the affection we have for our dad at the time.
But if you believe that, you also have to believe your dad's sense of service, your brother's sense of service,
yeah,
and in the sense that the Bush family continues to have something to contribute, and that being president is the ultimate power place to make things happen.
It's just not in the cards for me at this time, and as I said, I don't fret about this. Yeah. I have a blessed life in so many ways, and I get to participate in politics, and I get to participate where my passions are, which is be part of an army of reformers. One part only, but a group of people around the country that are trying to transform education.
So reforming education will be your number one priority today?
Yeah.
All right. Define what you think the difference is between the president and Governor Romney, and what this debate ought to be about.
Well, the difference is the role of government in our lives and in creating an environment where we can get back on track economically. That's the driving issues, those two issues of size and scope of government, and then how the role government plays in creating sustained economic growth. There's huge differences of opinion on that, and I think that's where the campaign plays out. President Obama is making a case that economic security trumps everything else, and is saying, I think it's a false choice, but he's saying if we redistribute wealth, more people will benefit through government, receiving, the chance to be secure in their economic livelihood. Governor Romney's approach is the one that's, I think, more traditional in our country, which is to say we need to create a climate of opportunity where people succeed and fail with government playing a role in building capacity, playing a role in providing security on a national level, playing a role for infrastructure, but not trying to pick winners and losers all the time. And that's a big difference. And I hope the campaign is about that and not about peripheral issues, because this could be one of those defining elections. This could be something that looks like 1980, where there was a clear choice and the country went in a different direction.
Reagan versus Carter.
Yeah.
When you look at this race and the role of government, do you support what the president did in bailing out General Motors?
I don't. I don't, and I think it's been way overplayed, the difference between a more traditional approach and a controlled bankruptcy where the government
that would have been better, a controlled bankruptcy rather than bailing out General Motors, which is healthy today, and jobs were saved.
Well, jobs would have been saved in other format as well. That's the point. So, saying which dealership gets closed, which one doesn't, forcing a foreign automobile manufacturer into the equity mix and ratcheting down.
Having to do with Chrysler.
This would be Fiat.
Right.
And, creating equity positions for the unions in both companies. Those were both bankruptcies. One was driven by politics. The other would have been driven in a different, more traditional role.
But people like the CEO of General Motors say it was a good idea and it saved the company.
The CEO that's there now?
Yes.
Or the former CEO?
The one that's there now, obviously.
Because I don't think the other guy did.
Yeah. Well, the other guy was fired as a kind of consequence of coming in.
Yeah, and the cars that are being sold now were cars that were built prior to the bankruptcy. GM was... it's still a work in progress, by the way. It's not necessarily, it's a success on the surface, but it's always harder to say what would have happened had we gone a different path. And I think it's very dangerous for the government to be in that kind of activist role. I'll tell you a story, Charlie. I was watching the President of the United States castigate a secured debt holder I don't remember, by name, the name of the company, and saying,
This was
you're
probably
holding
about
out.
Chrysler, I would assume.
It was Chrysler.
Right.
And holding out.
Right.
And at the pulpit of the White House, castigating whatever the name of the company was, and forcing them